All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to our MSBAi Alumni Panel and Information Session. My name is Prachi Joshi. I'm an Assistant Director of Admissions here at NYU Stern for the MS in Business Analytics and AI program. Today, we have a great session planned for you. We have two wonderful alumni joining us who are on your screens today, and they are excited to share with you their experience from the perspective of a student in the MSBAi program. So over the next 45 minutes or so, we'll chat about what it was like for them as a student in the program, how MSBAi impacted their careers, their career strategy, and we'll also catch up with how they're doing today. Just before we get into all of that, I would like to take a few minutes and do a brief overview of the MSBAi program, just for those of you who are joining but may not be familiar with what the program is like and what the admissions process entails. Today, we will focus mostly on the student experience as well as the alumni experience, with less of an emphasis on the admissions process. If you would like to learn more about the admissions process, we do have some information sessions coming up soon that you can join us for, and we'll definitely go over the admissions process in more detail during then. For now, we're excited for what we have planned, and we'll get right into it. The MS in Business Analytics and AI program is a one-year part-time program, and it's designed with the working professional in mind. We know your life is busy and you have a full-time job and personal commitments, and looking to add the academic load of a MS program is certainly something to consider. So we've structured our program to help you balance it all. Throughout the year, you will attend 6 modules, 5 that take place at NYU Stern here in New York, and 1 that takes place in a global location. In total, the 6 modules require about 5 weeks of vacation or flexible work time over the duration of the program, which is split across 2 calendar years. So for this coming class, it would be 2026 and 2027. You'll spend a lot of time here in New York City on campus at Stern, but then you also have the opportunity to travel globally for one of the modules. The global module will give you a chance to spend some time abroad with your cohort and learn more about the local business landscape. In between the modules, our students remain highly engaged with the program through remote assignments and coursework, which averages about 25 hours per week, depending on how you like to assign your own schedule. The remote work can include, but is not limited to, some readings, pre-recorded lectures, and some independent and group work. After successfully completing the program and your capstone project, students are awarded an MS in Business Analytics and AI from NYU Stern School of Business. The MSBAi program has 1 intake each year, starting in the spring. So we are currently accepting applications for the class of 2027, which will begin in May 2026. As you can see here on your screen, the modules are spaced across 2 calendar years. So that is designed to help you balance your vacation or flexible work time across the 2 years. Attending our modules in person is a crucial component of our program, and it is required. And this allows you to truly immerse yourself in the classroom environment and connect with your professors and your peers and create that network as will be the first step of your MSBAi program. 5 of these modules take place on campus here at NYU Stern, and our global module will be held in Abu Dhabi next March. As you saw from the previous slide as well, our program takes place in a blended learning format. So in between the in-person modules that you see on your screen, you are continuously engaged with the program remotely through online readings and assignments. Now, I'd like to take a brief moment to walk you through the admissions process and as well as our prerequisites for the program. Our first prerequisite is some full-time professional work experience that takes place post your undergraduate experience. So we do also ask that you have a bachelor's degree, a strong GPA, and demonstrated academic or quantitative preparedness. Once you know that you've met those requirements, you can see here that there is a 2-part process to applying for our program. The first piece is pretty brief. It just requires you to complete a short form on our website and upload your resume, and then our admissions committee will review. Because We ask you to do this, the reason being we want to make sure that you have met all our minimum requirements and are strongly suited to this program before you start the whole application process. Then we move you on to the formal application. And this process is both personal and straightforward in nature. There are a few items that we associate with the application that you will submit through our online portal. Those are on your screen. These elements, resume, official transcripts, we look at and they give us an idea of who you are. But we also take time to review your essay, your letter of recommendation, and your entire application as a whole. And we try to get a holistic idea of you as a candidate. So the idea is there's no one part of the application process that will make or break your candidacy. We want you to focus on the whole story you're presenting to the admissions committee in your application. So we are currently accepting applications for the MSBAi class of 2027. Our final deadline is very quickly approaching on February 27th. So we also wanted this panel to help fill in those gaps for anyone who's considering applying or is just at the cusp of applying, or maybe you've already applied and you really want to make sure this program is the right fit for you. Just so you know, our program does administer admissions decisions on a rolling basis, so spaces in the class are getting filled up. That being said, we do still want you to consider applying if you feel this program is a strong fit. There are some seats left, and we also want to encourage you to apply when you feel you've created your strongest possible application. So that's a little bit about the admissions program, or sorry, the MSBAi program, the admissions process, and everything that kind of goes along with being in the program. But there's no one better suited to talk to you about actually being in the program than our alumni. So with that being said, thank you so much to Susmita and Juan for joining us today. I'm really pleased to introduce you to our audience today. And I want to give our alumni a chance to introduce themselves. So Susmita, you're at the top of my screen. Do you mind coming off mute and introducing yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Prachi. Hi, everyone. Thanks for taking the time today, and hope you have gain a lot of information from this session. My name is Sushmita, and I'm currently an AI engineer at Medtronic, where I lead machine learning initiatives for people living with diabetes. And I also serve as the CTO of an organization called Young Aspiring Thinkers, where I lead the AI strategy for them for impacting social impact initiatives. And I graduated from the MSBAi program in 2024.
Thank you so much. And Juan, do you want to then introduce yourself as well?
Sure. I'm Juan Diaz. I'm currently located in Mexico City, and I am a manager for all new developments inside a mobility finance company, which is called Cicrea. Most of my work relies on anything that will be connected to the credit origination system and whatever has to do with credit risk. I graduated in 2025.
Thank you so much for sharing a little bit about yourselves. So let's get into some of the most commonly asked questions that we receive as an admissions committee when it comes to what the student experience is like for someone who's actually been through the program. So I'll walk Susmita and Juan through a couple of questions, and as you come up with your own questions, feel free to drop them in the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. And with the time that we have left in the session, we will definitely get to them. So just to start us off, Juan, do you want to talk a little bit about what were the specific aspects of the MSBAi program that appealed to you when you were searching for an MS program to join or an executive program to join?
Yeah, perfect. Basically, when I started looking and kind of like deciding what master's degree I wanted to work on, I mean, basically, I was down to two categories. Basically, I was looking into an MBA and kind of thinking like how would it benefit me in the long term? And of course, the MBAs have a lot of prestige in terms of uh, you can pivot your career. There's like a bunch of certainties that are kind of guaranteed with an MBA program. But I was also it also walked through my thought process like, okay, but where's the world going towards? No? And that's what I found like very, very attractive in well, back then it was only the MSBA. It wasn't BAI yet, but it was just the Master in Business Analytics. And it was always a curiosity that I had because as I don't know, as you grow as a professional or basically are spend a lot of time in the workforce, what you start understanding is how important it is to listen to what the data is telling you, no? I mean, there's like the hypothesis that history repeats itself, and a lot of this you can see in the numbers, no? And a lot of people says, no, that the numbers were saying something else. Well, probably you didn't read them correctly, no? Because most of the times, based off what you see in the data and kind of understand the power of it, it really walks you through what's the next step of what's going to happen. And that was basically what just walked me straight into the MSBAi.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. Just make the same question to you. What were you looking for? What was appealing to you about the program when you were in your search for a program to join?
I would say my curiosity around AI started when I was working at Alexa at Amazon, and that really piqued my curiosity to understand how these models are evolving and how they're interacting with people. And I really wanted to understand the model behind the scenes. And over time, I've realized that it's not just about building these models. The real impact comes when you actually link these insights to the business decisions and solutions. And before applying, I was actually considering a lot of programs. I was speaking with MSBAi alumni, and I was also going through the MSBAi curriculum in detail. And what stood out to me was how much emphasis this program puts into bridging that gap between the technical aspects as well as how to tie those to the business solutions. And that's one of the things that really stood out for me. And according to me, storytelling in data science is the most underrated skill. And so yeah, that's explaining why you're building a model, why it matters, and then making sure the leadership understands and acts on your models and decisions. So that's the most important skill. So it was a very clear decision for me while I was applying. So I was really into the curriculum and how it stood out and how it emphasizes on the causal as well as prescriptive analytics, whereas most other programs did not give that for me. And obviously, the second part is the part-time aspect structure of the program. I did not want to put my career momentum on pause while I was going through the program. So being able to continue working while I was also learning, so that was like a clear choice for me to kind of go through the program.
Great. Thank you for sharing. I think that segue is actually great into another question that we often get, which is how do you actually balance being in a program and all the work assignments that don't stop just because you've joined a program? So what was that like for you?
It was definitely intense. There's no way around that. So let's just say for a year, my weekends didn't look like sorry, they did look quite different than usual. But yeah, it was definitely very manageable because of the modular structure. Like first module ends and then the pre-module of the second module immediately starts. So you get that time to really soak in all the content and then be prepared for the next module. And I did work full time through the program, and so I had to become really disciplined about time management. So that's one of the things I really learned during the program as well. And what helped the most for me is that I was able to apply the concepts that I was learning in the classroom directly into my projects at work. And so it, like, the school did not feel like it's a separate thing. It kind of felt integrated as part of my work because I was already a data scientist going into the program. So it really did feel like it was both aspects of my life, they were kind of integrated. So it was kind of easy for me there.
That sounds like it would definitely help if you're able to kind of see the learnings as they're, you're in the classroom and then on a Friday and then on a Monday you can see it actually in action at work. So I'm
Exactly.
really glad to hear that. For you, Juan, what was that experience like, balancing your work projects that don't stop with the program projects that also don't stop? What was that experience like for you?
Well, initially, like my first approach to it was, okay, how am I going to do it? I was just living like in total fear of what this is going to be like. Like what does 25 hours a week, mean in terms of planning it out? So basically, when like right off the bat, when I started, Like even before that, I remember writing to one of the people of admissions, like, "Hey guys, it was I think February or March." And I was just writing to them saying, like, "When does it start? I'm on my on my portal and I cannot see any work loaded up." And they were like, "No, calm down. It doesn't open up till April." No, so I was kind of like in this groove, and basically, it's complex. Why? Because all of us have full-time jobs, and jobs are demanding, whether you like it or not. But basically, I started off kind of planning it out like maybe 1 hour a day or 2 hours a day, trying to put in the work, be it either early morning or later at night. Um, and it comes down to planning, no? The program has a lot of material, but a lot of it is very, very, very interesting. And it keeps you on your toes and it keeps you with a lot of understanding of what's going on. And a lot of this interaction that you have, and there's online classes. I think it keeps it very, very interesting. And building off a little bit of what Susmita said, as you go through the program, you start learning these new things that are completely applicable to your work, no? And also a little thing that she mentioned in the last question was they teach you a very, very underrated skill, which is storytelling, which really is the part that kind of ties all of this together is how do I get from raw data to basically the C-level understanding what I'm trying to transmit to them. And you work through that in every single one of the modules and through your capstone project that it really does become very, very relevant in your day-to-day work.
Well, I'm glad, and I hope that our, future class, whoever joins, finds that relevance too. So, I'm really glad that that was something that you were both able to figure out with time and experience in the program. When you think about, or when you reflect back on what it was like to actually be in your cohort, and this is interesting because both of you were part of different years, so you each had a unique cohort experience. What was it like to be with a cohort? And, our for those of you who may not know, our program is lockstep. So uh, this group of students are together for all of the classes that they're taking. There are no electives, there are no other pathways. So it's really this group that's with each other from the beginning to the end. So what was that experience like? How did you find interacting with your classmates and connecting with them? What was that like for you? And Juan, do you want to start us off on this question?
Sure. Um, so I think that one of the most valuable things you will find ever in a classroom is the diversity of the students, no? Um, I think pending whatever Susmita's experience was, but the diversity inside my cohort was very, very interesting. I mean, we had professionals from the age of 25 to the age of 55. I mean, it was a very diverse class. And we had people from everywhere. I mean, we had a guy from Azerbaijan, guy from Chile, me from Mexico, a lot of people from the US. We had a student from Bali. And I think in every country, there's some kind of diversity in the way people work and the understanding of what they do. And basically, there were jobs from everywhere. No, not everybody was a data scientist, for example. No, so you could kind of like get this understanding. I mean, we had entrepreneurs, we had people in project management, we had a couple of people in sales. So it kind of gets interesting, and that's what kind of gives the class a lot of flavor. No, because even if you go through the full curriculum, the class will become very, very bland if you're just there kind of to, okay, let me just understand what machine learning is. Okay. But for example, in my cohort, there was a guy from Amazon that was very interesting that he'd say, oh, you know what? In Amazon, this is the type of techniques we apply, and this is how we discriminate certain variables. And they kind of like start enriching it and kind of give you a direction of like, for example, Amazon works in this way, or and Bev works in a different way. So that's very interesting in having that diversity in a cohort. And I actually made like a lot of friends during this time, which till today, like 2 weeks ago, I was in the meet and greet of Ski Vale with the NYU group, and still four of us got together. We went, we hung out. I mean, it was an interesting time.
So glad. I'm so glad that you all still keep in touch too. I mean, I think that's something we hear often, but it's always nice to hear that it's validated that we're good at making friendships too. Just maybe the same question to you. How was it like to be in a cohort after, and a lot of folks sometimes join programs after being out of school for so long too. So like, what was that like to have classmates again and be in a classroom environment with them?
I would second Juan on all the things that he mentioned. I think the diversity of my cohort was also really great, and we had people, professionals from different or from all across the world, from different industries as well. And what changes is that the level of discussion that happens with these kind of people, diverse group, that happens in the classroom setting is really it's a really enriching experience, I would say. You begin to see how the same analytical frameworks that you learn can be applied in different industries in a different way. So, like for example, the same analytical framework could be applied in consulting versus finance versus healthcare. How are these things different? Similar to what Juan was talking about, and the second thing is obviously you have a lot of fun during the program. It is rigorous, yes, but you do have a lot of fun as well. You engage with the cohort, and during the breaks, like you work with them on assignments and things like that. There are group assignments as well as individual assignments where you get to really work with the cohort and hear each other's perspectives and work together. Like one was talking about, there are people from with like 10 years of experience, and also there are people with like 3 years or 5 years of experience. So it's really important to get these perspectives while you're working on one project together. So that was a really good experience as well. And obviously what I loved is while we're traveling to Abu Dhabi and these global modules, and we have these guest speakers coming and talking about different things in an international setting, and how intellectually stimulating that was. But also it was really fun. We created a lot of memories. In Abu Dhabi, we went on desert safaris and things like that. So it was super fun. And to me, what I appreciate the most is that all of these things did not end at graduation. We're again like still in touch with each other, still support each other professionally, and we've kind of built a community for ourselves, and that's a really strong point.
That's great. I will say with the Abu Dhabi, you reminded me, we often post module updates on our social media platforms, and I feel like the pictures from Abu Dhabi always get the most engagement. People love to see our students in a setting that's not a classroom. They love seeing them in a desert safari or, in the dunes. It's, I feel like I wish I could join them. It looks a lot of fun, like a lot of fun. So I'm really glad those created a lot of, lifelong memories for both of you. And then one of the last questions that we'll have on the student experience, but one question we get a lot is, what was it like to work on your capstone project? So if you can give us a little bit of background, if you still remember these details, what was your project topic like? What was it like to work with your group and your faculty advisor? What was the whole experience start to finish like for you when you think back on your capstone experience? And just that you can kick us off, yeah.
For my capstone, we worked on optimizing Nintendo's ad strategies on Amazon Ads platform. We did have marketing, large-scale marketing data, and then we used advanced techniques to kind of solve this problem. But like beyond the modeling aspect of it, how do you translate, define a problem statement, and how do you translate that into a problem and then eventually solve it? That process entirely was like really really enriching, I would say. And because like I said, my capstone group was also like a very diverse group. We had like 3 people from different countries out of 5. So we were working across different time zones, and people bring multiple perspectives to the table as well while you're working on the groups. And it was the first time I really had an opportunity to kind of define a problem, tell or understand why that matters, as well as figure out how to solve it. A lot of times while you're working in corporate, you don't get to like define your own problems and work on things. So that was one of the key things. And Honestly, in the beginning, we were a bit confused when it came to capstone. Like there were moments when we were like questioning if we were headed in the right direction, and things
Mhm.
like that. And that's where the capstone advisors play a crucial role in kind of understanding or guiding you back onto the path. And then they're also really approachable as well. So they play a crucial role while you're working on your capstone projects. And in the end, what started kind of as an uncertainty really turned into like a deeply fulfilling experience that we're really proud of. And I remember this one of the capstone directors telling us that we've really put a rigor of a PhD level rigor into the capstone, and that was like a really proud moment for all of us. So since then, I've actually applied a lot of those frameworks into my work at Medtronic as well. So it really taught me how to navigate uncertainties, how to define your own problems in the real world, and how do you navigate what difficulties you face in the while working on the project. Like the data might not be clean at all, which is in most of the cases while you're working on data science projects. How do you deal with that, and what is important and what is not important? So these are the questions that you ask yourself while you're working through the project. And it is a year-long project, but then time flies. So you just have to like keep at it. And it is definitely one of the best experiences.
It sounds like it really took you the full project life cycle to kind of see it, all the way through. And I'm thrilled that it was able to apply to where you actually work. Juan, what was your do you I saw you nodding along a lot. So do you feel like that was
Oh,
something similar to your experience? Walk us through, your project topic and what that was like to work on your capstone project.
yeah. What we ended up defining was not exactly a problem statement for a company, but we basically established how to create a recommender system that could optimize your investment in digital marketing. So that was a bit of a spin to what I think traditional capstones look like.
Mhm.
Actually, Susmita was on the panel that judged us back
Wow.
then. Uh, it's it's a very interesting project to do because it makes you create something from nothing, basically. Basically you arrive you're at your first module and the first thing they tell you is like, okay, on Friday we're having presentations on whatever theme you guys think that we should do. And they kind of throw you a little curveball there. So you kind of like are starting to play around with the theme, but still not completely understanding what you're getting yourself into, no? Um, yeah, it's definitely a challenge. My team was very similar to Susmita's. We were around 3 or 4 time zones. No, we had people who had 23, oh no, or 22-hour differences. I mean, it was an interesting work through. But I mean, it's great. I'm still in touch with my capstone team. Like also, whenever I'm stuck on something with data or something of the sort, I can reach out to them, and they're more than happy to kind of butt in, and help out with a solution. And it kind of teaches you the way to approach a problem creatively because the straightforward solution is never straightforward. There's always something, either the data's wrong or you're looking at the problem in the wrong way. And that's where the advisors come in. And I think they play a very important role, and they push you to work with techniques that are maybe outside of your comfort zone. And they push you to kind of get into this research and maybe have this critical mind about what you're doing. So is it the best that you can do, or do you think there's something a little bit better? Or what happens if you approach the problem? Let's say if you're looking at it through sales, what happens if you look at it through risk or through pricing, and kind of also help you kind of to pivot where you should be going? And I mean, if quickly, I'll just share a quick example.
Mhm.
Like for us, I thought that we were working for a company that does ethical hacking. So what I looked at first was I always said news articles will definitely be a driver for this. And to my surprise, news articles do not have any kind of influence on what drives traffic. So, like with our advisor, he worked through like, okay, but maybe not this, but how about you look at trending topics? And trending topics did result to kind of give us a little push, So it's kind of how you look at it through what looking glass and understand when your hypothesis is wrong.
That's a really interesting anecdote. I thank you for sharing that. I think that gives
Mhm.
our audience a little bit of insight of what it's like to be in that moment of, trying on different, solutions and seeing what actually works. So, thank you so much for sharing that with us. And then just want to switch gears a little bit towards the end of our, sort of panel discussion, which is let's talk a little bit more about your careers and the impact that being in this program has had on it. I think both of you have touched on it a little bit throughout our conversation so far, but when you really think about what your life is like, or your professional life rather, is like now, and where it's gone because you have been in this program and your experiences of being in this program. What stands out to you? Like what to you was the most impactful part about being in this program on your professional goals or your career itself? And Juan, you want to start us off on this one?
I think I'm going to let Susmita start us off because I
Okay.
think I have a separate perspective, but I think she can give us a slightly more pure perspective on data analytics.
All right. Well, Susmita, give us what your perspective on this.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the biggest shift for me was the way I think. This program has really changed the way I think. And like for example, these days a lot of companies say let's use AI, but then they don't always necessarily ask the right question of why. And this program has really helped me kind of be that person who asks the right questions in the right setting, like for example, what problem are we solving, and why does this problem require AI? And yeah, so how are we kind of thinking about solving this? Are we doing this ethically and responsibly, or no? So these are the questions that you kind of ask yourself before starting an AI project. And that is the mindset shift that I've gained from this program, because previously I used to focus more on the modeling aspects of things. Let's say there's a problem, and then I'm like, I'll solve it this way. But then these days I'm asking the right questions, and that kind of really helped me. And it also gave me the confidence to kind of participate in these discussions around how AI is evolving, and where it is headed, and how we can kind of really thrive in this AI driven world. And it also kind of gave me the confidence to step into the CTO role that I'm currently at right now. It actually is kind of a part of. So how that happened is through the MSBAi program as well. The founder of the company that I'm working with right now is one of the capstone members, one of my capstone members. And after the program, when he's really reevaluating his organization and what's their focus should be on within this AI-driven world, he really wanted me to kind of lead the technical aspects of his organization, and that's kind of how I ended up choosing there. So networking, I would say, is really a key part in the program, and you never know how opportunities come and where you end up in. So people are always observing, and then you do have a great alumni community as well for networking. And yeah, that's pretty much. And I think it also, on a personal note, this program has also kind of deepened my love towards data science in general. Like I really found myself working on data science projects outside of the course curriculum, just out of curiosity and excitement about, hey, I want to work on this model and see how this happens. Like, let me just try and play around with things and in the data. So I used to do some Kaggle competitions and things like that. So it was really fun. So it really kind of gave me that curiosity and enthusiasm to kind of do these things. And like I said, obviously networking played a huge role. So it kind of gave me a community where I can talk about these things. And yeah, that's like a huge thing for me.
I really like how you mentioned it deepened I think it like affirmed that you really are in the right place. And I love to hear that. Juan, now we would love to
Yeah.
hear a little bit about,
As and I think that
yeah.
the perspective from a data scientist and someone who's been a lot more involved, I think gives you like a good walk into where it takes you initially. But basically, my experience was a little bit different in terms that my company did not have any kind of reliance on data. So when I came back, or as I was working through this, it was like, guys, we really have to start looking at what our data is telling us. We have to kind of start pushing toward it, and that's how I landed up doing a lot of the part of risk, a lot of risk analysis, and basically defining what the risk model was going to look like, and kind of like how to move the population, and then how that pushes into pricing. And I mean, that was a strong part. And what started happening, like you start understanding the importance of labels and structured data when you're in this program, like how much easier, how much agile it'll make your work. Um, and when I got back to what I was looking at, basically I took charge of creating the data bank for our company. Like, okay, so let's start from the building blocks, because otherwise everybody was like, oh yeah, let's work with AI and let's get agents and let's do a bunch of stuff, and which is very, very popular and very, very attractive right now. But if you don't have the building blocks to be able to walk through that, it becomes very complex. So kind of like creating this, I'm going to call it story of how we have to start building our AI program was truly what I gained to be able to get through this, you know? Like we threw in an AI agent, which basically could have been any kind of a chatbot. All it would do would be answer questions back. So I'm like, guys, this is a fundamental error that we're doing. Let's work backwards as it should get done. And I think that that's what actually gave value to what I was learning. Like understand the structure, understand the problem, ask the correct question, and then answer said question, you know?
I think you bring up a great point in that not everyone comes from a data perspective or background. So I think it's wonderful that you highlighted that you are able to actually bring an entirely new perspective to your company and entrench that as part of, what you do day to day. So thank you so much for sharing that part of your experience. And the last question that I have for the two of you before we jump into the Q&A, is what advice would you impart to prospective students that are watching today and are thinking, should I apply? Or, maybe they've already applied. What advice do you have for them as they embark on this experience? And Juan, do you want to start us off, or do
Oh,
you want
perfect.
to
I'll start us
go
off.
ahead?
So, um, I'm going to speak a little bit from my perspective of what was something that kind of had me in a complex situation when making this decision. I basically I started off as a very weak programmer. No, my Python skills, my R skills, my SQL skills were very basic because it was something that I never used to use day to day. And it was a huge reservation that I had, like, okay, should I do this? Because you know what, the programming seems like it has to be really complex, and I think uh, you don't really need the programming skills. If you have them, everything is a lot easier in terms of getting through assignments, understanding the code, and a lot of stuff. But if you walk in there, and I mean, I'm going to dare to say this, with zero programming skills, you will be able to work the program. It will be a little bit more complex, but I think it's a reservation that a lot of people have when applying directly to this program because, like, I think in the second module you have introduction to Python and you have, introduction to SQL, and in the first module you have a good a good quantity of R in there. So um, all of the professors are willing to walk you through. So definitely take a lot of advantage of that. And definitely, if you're already in the program and you're going to start, enjoy it. I mean, there's a lot of people who worry like, oh, work, 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 work. I think that the whole experience of chatting with your cohort, chatting with your professors, learning from their experiences is what really enriches what you're doing, and don't just don't look at it as 100% academic feed, no? And oh, like your cohort will say, oh, how about we go let's go get a beer. I think that when they ask that, everybody should say yes, or let's go get dinner, or let's go do something. Instead of being like caught up, like, oh, I have to be up at 8 a.m. or whatever. I do think that the social aspect to it is also very, very important.
Yeah, I totally understand that. I think that's something that people sometimes long for after so long of not being in that environment of enjoying that sense of community. That's a kind of a third space. It's not work, it's not personal, it's something, it's a third. And you guys have, like I said, lockstep curriculum, so side by side for the next year in the trenches. So thank you both so much for sharing your wisdom, your experience, your learnings, your insight. I hope our uh, anyone dialing in today was able to take a couple of pieces of wisdom with them. So what I'll do now is I'll pause for another minute or so, allow anyone to type questions that they have in the chat box, or you can chat it to us. And then we'll just do a little bit of Q&A before we break for the session. All right. Okay, so I already see a question, and I think Susmitha, you had mentioned in earlier in our session about talking to some MSBA alums or alumni about what the program was like. So, can you talk a little bit about what did you find it helpful, and what did you talk about? What questions were you asking when you were talking to alumni before starting the program?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the confusions that I had before I joined the program as well, similar to Juan, was should I do an MBA or should I do the MSBA? I think that's a common question everybody has before applying to the program. I did consider MBA as well, but I realized I wasn't looking to kind of pivot into a broad business role. I really wanted to, I feel like I'm strong technically and I wanted to be that way. I wanted to kind of bridge that gap between the technical audience as well as the stakeholders. So that kind of clearly stood out for me, and this program really sharpened my technical skills as well. And it really helped me kind of uh, become that great leader who asks the right questions and kind of understands the landscape of this entire AI landscape and how things are evolving, and kind of has a say in those meetings with leadership. So that's kind of what I got from my conversations with the alumni before I joined the program, and even after I joined the program, I was constantly in touch with alumni. I was talking to them, gaining their perspective, trying to see who is in which industry, and then should I kind of like understand where they were coming from and what they got out of the program. And I must say they're super, super like supportive. They're very responsive. And that kind of gave me the sense of sense of the community that we're kind of building. And yeah, that really helped me make this choice.
And how did you find the alumni, if you don't mind me asking? How were you looking at LinkedIn, or did you maybe use the help of people in the program team or the mission side to help you find alumni that you would be able to connect with?
I was mainly looking at the admissions website, and then all the alumni kind of who are featured on the website as well. So I was going through them, and yeah, that's kind of how I approached. And obviously, I would reach out to them on LinkedIn.
Okay, very cool. Thank you for answering that. And then Juan, you had mentioned when you were talking, so I think you would be a great candidate for this question. What if you are someone who has a less technical background? What would you say someone could do to prepare themselves a little bit more so that when they do join the program, they can hit the ground, maybe not running, but at least not crawling?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, my initial approach was like this crash course in programming to get kind of like on everybody else's level. And then I realized that it was like, I mean, definitely made my life easier, but was not a requisite to what I really needed, no? So basically getting your hands dirty in a little bit of SQL and working through a little bit of R, because R does become a fundamental part of what you're working with. Um, Python, they walk you a little bit easier through. And right now, thank God, it's a good time to to kind of be alive because you have a lot of support in programming. Basically, my cohort basically lived through the generation of the LLM boom. So we started having certain resources toward the end of our year that would help us program. For example, if we'd run into an error, ChatGPT can help you out with terms of, okay, help me find the logic to this, no? Um, what is the best way to approach this level of programming, or how can I do this in a little bit less lines and make it cleaner, and kind of like start getting your feeling for what programming looks like, and also kind of get yourself back into a stronger reading habit. I think that those two things get very, very important because what's very, very important of the pre-module is kind of absorb as much knowledge as you can. Why? So your time with your professors will be enriching. So you're not talking about what the lecture says, you're talking about what the lecture implies and how is that applicable to all of the different use cases that you see. So, and me not being from a data analytics background or programming background, um, I could give a lot of opinions on the more of the strategy and the business side and kind of tie it up with what the programming should look like or the analytics should look like from somebody else who just lifted their hand and said, ah, you know what, we do this. What would you think if you ran through this application? So uh, it sounds like very stereotypical, but the more prepared you are or the more curious you are, the more you're going to get out of the program.
Wise words. And I think we do offer, some, if you are someone who's wondering about this, about your, where you can go to sharpen your skills, reach out to us at MSBAi at stern.nyu.edu. We have some great resources we can share with you of where you can take these amazing crash courses to learn about the fundamentals of Python and R. So thank you so much, Juan, for sharing your experience with that. We have someone that's asking, and I think both of you can answer this a little bit and have different perspectives coming at this question. But where were you based while you were attending this program, and how did you handle slash manage the traveling component of the program if you were traveling? And Sushmita, do you want to start us off?
Absolutely. I live in Jersey City, so it's pretty much one path ride away. But yeah, I live pretty close to the campus right now.
Yeah, and do you want to talk a little bit about what traveling to Abu Dhabi was like? Just so someone who's maybe watching and doesn't know, do I have to do all that by myself? What was that experience like for you when you were gearing up for that module?
Yeah, so we were kind of doing it by ourselves, but then we were doing it as a group. Like we would all plan which hotel to stay in so that we could catch up after the classes, and then maybe do something, go to a mosque or something, and then do something, go to a market and things like that after class. So it wasn't like we were planning things separately. It was always like we were doing it as a cohort, as a group. It was so much fun planning these things and executing them, and also obviously having fun. So Abu Dhabi was definitely one of the best experiences. Like I mentioned, the desert safari was a highlight as well. And yeah, that is really the time when we actually bonded with everyone in the group, because you're almost at the end of the program, and then you're doing your final capstone presentations during that module, practice final presentations. So you're almost at the end, so you're like having so much fun before you kind of graduate. So it was fun.
That's great. Sounds like a last hurrah. And it's good to
Yeah.
know, you have other folks to kind of lean on when you're thinking about planning, because you're also at the same time doing program work, doing your job. So that's great. And just so anyone joining the call knows, we also have a program team that helps you along the way, especially if you're concerned about visas and travel. We have people on our team that are dedicated to that portion of it too. And Juan, do you want to share a little bit about for you, what was it like to travel, if you were traveling to campus?
Yeah, I was based out of Mexico City, so
Mhm.
there was like Well, actually, of the international travelers, I think I had it the easiest. Me and a guy from Seattle was like our 5 hour commute or 6 hour commute. But since we had also like people from Bali, Japan, they had like serious, serious commutes. Um, but in general, I think it's how you handle your PTO, your paid time off with your company. That's the first one. And in general, when we got there, for the first module, we didn't have like much of a bond. I mean, there is a small team project before you start module one where you meet 5 or 6 people. Um, but after module one, basically now you know your cohort, you kind of understand where everybody's coming from, and kind of
Mhm.
start coordinating with them how to stay because lodging in New York is not a particularly cheap activity. But basically kind of doing it between 2 people or an Airbnb that has 2 or 3 bedrooms and kind of like set it up in a way where it becomes slightly more affordable is definitely good. Um, I was very lucky. I have lots of friends in New York, so I was able to lodge with them, which I would say that should be your first option. But and on a secondary note, yeah, kind of coordinate probably with your group and try to work with it. Around campus, there's a bunch of places. I won't go with them being particularly cheap, but if the first time you arrive, you kind of start negotiating that you're going to be there for 5 different modules, you're going to be staying so many nights, they kind of understand you're a student, might give you a little 10% discount, maybe 15% discount. Um, and yeah, basically, that was most of my international issues.
Well, thank you for sharing that. And I do want to say when the NYU Purple ID, it gets you a lot of 10% discounts around campus. So definitely hold on to that while you're here with us. And then thank you so much for talking through your different your a little from coming from a different perspective. I think it's helpful for people to know what it's like to be local and not to be local. But the last question that I want to ask you guys, and I'm very curious to hear this myself, is when you reflect back on your entire experience as an MBA, MSBAi student, who is the faculty member or what is the course that you took that stands out to you the most? It could be the most impactful one. It could be the hardest. What when you look back on it, what's the one course or faculty member who comes to mind for MSBAI? And Susmita, you want to take this first?
Yeah, definitely. I think from a course perspective, definitely machine learning and AI courses, these are the most technical courses that kind of give you the solid foundation, and obviously statistics as well. This kind of give you the solid foundation into data science. And when it comes to more business related courses, there's data-driven decision making as well as decision under risk. These are the courses that kind of teach you how to make these decisions and how to optimize your decisions and things like that. So definitely there. I mean, I could name each and every course, but I think one professor is the academic director that like really played a huge role, and I think he plays a huge role in every single person's life. And the amount of time he spends with the cohort during lunch breaks and during class, even after class. I know he's a pretty busy man, but then he definitely takes the time out of his day to come spend with the MSBI students. And that's definitely a big plus for the program because you learn a lot from the academic director, Professor Gose, and you learn a lot from him. He's super talented. He has a lot of experience, and then he can guide you when you kind of need some guidance with any aspect of your life. So definitely one of the huge plus.
That is a we hear that a lot. I feel like he loves the cohort, he loves the program. And I definitely we get that a lot. He's definitely very impactful for our students. Juan, what about you? What was like the one course, the one professor, and it's okay if it's the same one, but who and what really stands out to you when you think about and you reflect on your experience?
Yeah, I think the influence of Professor Ghost is really, really good. I mean, his experiences and stuff he tells you about, and his class of marketing analytics is very, very enriching. It kind of like w works you through how to evaluate variables and stuff like that, which is like pretty interesting, and he tries to simplify it to like the base of what it's like. But me personally, I took to the recommender systems class that was really good with Professor Panos. I think that the way he teaches and the passion he has very specifically for recommender systems is, I mean, above and beyond. You know, that kind of drive I only saw in another two professors, probably Birch and Professor Siemens. Um, I mean, that trio, I think, is like so passionate of what they're teaching you at that moment, and kind of you kind of see it in how they show you. And oh, what do you want to go through? And we have these five themes. Is there any of this that you do not find interesting? And he kind of like goes through a class poll, and okay, so you guys don't are not. In my case, my class was not interested in AI regulation, so they eliminated that theme, and we went deeper into recommender system techniques and stuff like that. And he kind of makes it like, what's the interest of everybody? So I think he was truly impactful in my learning.
That's really wonderful. Yes, I totally agree. They are extreme. I feel like they have their niches, they found it, and they, love to share. I think that's something that's common across all our faculty is they really love to share what they're passionate about. And I'm really glad that after this time they are, how they taught and what they said still stands out to you. And I hope anyone that's joining us today and I'm sure they are much more excited about the program and the prospect of joining our future cohort. If this was helpful to you, then we're really glad we were able to put on this session. It is recorded, so if we will be sharing this on YouTube and on our social media platforms. If we didn't get to your questions today, I am really sorry. We get a lot of questions sometimes, but what I will say is our inbox is always running. So email us at msbai@stern.nyu.edu. We will get back to you in 24 to 48 hours. We have our preliminary form on our website. If you're not sure about the program, you can submit that form, and you can even meet with someone on the admissions team for an informal conversation just to chat through your interest in the program. And if there's anything else that we can help you with, please don't hesitate to reach out. Thank you so much, Susmita and Juan, for joining us today. I'm really glad we were able to talk a bit about your experience as a student and as alumni. And I'm really happy with the experiences that you've had in the program and that they continue to enrich your lives even after graduating. So with that, I want to conclude our session today. I'm going to also stop the recording.